You hear a lot of talk about these, these electric vehicles, the Teslas, and there's a couple more out there, Lucid and some others. And they've been working on some semi trucks and things like that. So let me just talk to that just for a minute as I'm driving here. Got a few miles to clock out anyway. The problem is people don't realize that to get a barrel of oil out of the ground, there's a cost to it. Right now, currently in the U.S., the cost to get the barrel out of the ground, it's about $100 a barrel, maybe a little bit less, but let's just call it $100 a barrel to get it out. If they somehow got over the power grid problems and they somehow got over the ability of everybody to buy a car and to have one of those chargers put in their home, and all those problems of having all the cars in America go over to electric, here's the greater issue. And that barrel of oil cost $100 to get out of the ground and send it to the refinery. That's not including refining costs, but let's just say. So if it's $100 out of that, 70% of that is actually offset by the sale of gasoline that goes in gasoline vehicles. Now, if you remove gasoline vehicles from the picture, that means that 70% has to come from something else, which would be all the rest of the fuels that are out of there. That 30% of that barrel of oil left goes into everything else, your diesel fuels, jet fuels, whatever, heating and cooling fuels, all kind of things. That means that's 70% of that. So $70 of every barrel has to be offset into the price of the fuels that fuel the other things. Now, you say, well, they could do it with diesels. Currently, the Tesla Semi, which is, the power unit, let's call it, which has probably had the most success of the testing. There's a place in Michigan, I think, some people up there that are working on one. But currently, their Semi is only able to go 300 miles on a charge, and because of the size of the battery, it takes about 4 hours to charge the battery. So if you have a semi truck and you're out there listening to this, you know that you can fill your dual saddle tanks on that semi truck and you can go, 800 miles or something out of that? So you're going, basically, let's just call it 3 times the distance with saddle tanks. And you can fill up, let's say you go to the bathroom, get you something to eat, you can fill up within about 30, 40 minutes. You're back on the road again versus 4 hours of downtime. And not to mention, how is the clock going to work after that? If you have 4 hours of downtime and a 14-hour duty cycle, what's that going to look like? I mean, you're going to sleep for 4 hours and they break up the 10-hour clock and who knows? No, what's going to happen is they're going to have more trucks on the road, more of these electric trucks on the road, which are wildly expensive, by the way. And then you're going to add that much more to your charging stations. And remember, the car charging stations will not charge the big trucks. So there's no way that the big trucks are going to work out. So it's a non-starter. You can forget it. None of it's true. It's all fantasy, and they know it. So when they're telling you about, adding charging stations and electric vehicles are the way to go, and the future's electric vehicles and all these things, they're lying to you. They know the statistics. They've done the research. Everybody knows it. But they want to push their agenda, which is to try to convince you that somehow that this green, this green living is going to work in that respect. And it does not. It's the same thing in the solar power industry, which I'll get into that in another video. But dealing with trucking, it's a non-starter. Nobody's going to be able to go out and pay the wild prices for these electric vehicles, and because of the downtime and the distance you can travel, and that means a truck driver that can make $90,000-$100,000 plus a year because the miles they're paid by the mile. So because of the miles they're covering in a day, they're able to make that kind of money. If those diesel truck drivers are not able to cover but half of the miles that they're normally covering because of duty cycles and everything else, people are going to be screaming about this stuff. So don't buy into it. When you hear about the whole thing about electric vehicles and stuff, don't buy into that. There's so many things that are not going to work out. It's just the other side beating their drum, trying to make you think there's something that they're not. Anyway, I do thank you for watching.